We are live from Buffalo, New York for the NCAA Tournament with the Arkansas Razorbacks as they'll be taking on Vermont tomorrow night. Not afternoon, not evening. It's tomorrow night. And we got some breakdowns, some reactions, and some fun stuff coming up on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. I apologize for not having the podcast up a little earlier today, as it's been pretty hectic, as you can imagine, up here in Buffalo for the NCAA tournament. But we're still going to have you some great content. This may be a little bit of a shorter podcast as well, because there's just some other things going on, but we'll be back on schedule tomorrow. It's just been wild, and I appreciate everyone's patience with me and trying to get this done, because I want to do the podcast. I want to be able to put forth some great content and all those things too, but it's just been kind of difficult at times. But either way, here we are live in Buffalo. In fact, Buffalo, New York is right behind me, and yeah, it's okay. But it's just been great to kind of get back into the swing of things with the NCAA tournament, obviously being here. We've had press conferences. We got to see some practices, got to see some other things too. But I wanted to start with the podcast just reacting to the press conference that was just held about an hour or so ago by Eric Musselman, JD Note, Jalen Williams, and Stanley Amude. Now, I was trying to put some video in here too, but the NCAA is kind of really weird about that. So I didn't want to jeopardize getting my video taken down or anything like that. But to just hit some highlights of what was said and Arkansas getting ready for this game. First off, this team is motivated. Now, you'll probably be like, well, that's pretty cliche. They should be. It's the NCAA tournament. But I'm not talking about the motivation that you would think from wanting to win and win at a high level in the NCAA tournament. I'm talking about a level of disrespect that the Razorbacks have felt themselves get over the past week. Now, when Arkansas was selected to go into the NCAA tournament as a 4 seed, made sense to me. I had no problem with that. I didn't see it as an issue. I didn't see it as any reason to believe that, Arkansas got screwed in the seeding or anything like that. I don't think the Razorback basketball team or the coaching staff believes that they were screwed when it came to the seeding or anything like that. But when I saw that Arkansas not only was taking on a team like Vermont, which was a really good team and well-respected team, but having to play in Buffalo, New York, it's like, okay, in the West region too, of all things, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Well, I mean, hey, it's just the way the NCAA tournament goes sometimes. So, it just kind of happens that way. But then if they win the next 2 games and they have to go to San Francisco, I was like, okay, that's a long, talking about halfway across the country, in a week to try to get ready for the next one too, and all of that. And so I just thought of it as a sign of just a bad luck of the draw. It sucks. You got to do what you got to do. Can't change it, but it definitely didn't seem like Arkansas was done any favors. Well, when we got a chance to go with the team to Niagara Falls, which was really awesome, by the way, really cool if you haven't been there. I probably won't go back. It's kind of like one of those things you just want to see once, and once you've seen it once, you can move on. It's kind of the same thing, but really cool if you've never been. We got a chance, a few media members and I, to go to the Niagara Falls thing where the team was there. And we got a chance to talk with some players and talk with Muss a little bit on and off the record. And I'll put it to you like this. There's a chip on the shoulder. There's a motivation there that the Razorback team did not feel like they were given much respect when it came to preference of region, when it came to preference of location, when it came to the matchups that they were given, not only here, but possibly in the future if they continue to win. There was a level of angst and like, yeah, what are y'all doing? Why'd y'all screw us over? We got screwed in this thing. And some people are going to be watching this podcast and saying, well, grow up. That's the way it happens in the NCAA tournament. That's fine. But it is kind of a load of BS if you think about it, where fans, the fans, the Razorback fans, you know how tough it is to get to Buffalo? It ain't easy and it ain't cheap. And then to stay here in Buffalo is really difficult. And on top of that, you're going to be playing Vermont, who's in the Northeast, And then more than likely we'll play UConn in the next game, who's also in the Northeast. And it's like, wow, Arkansas is the highest seed here in Buffalo. But yet they are I think maybe New Mexico State or whatever, but they are far away. One of the farthest teams away from all the teams that are playing here. Like Providence is here too. And so when I started thinking about all these things, I'm like, this is kind of crap. And then I see like Muss and hearing, and I'm like, yeah, that is a load of crap. Like, that's kind of messed up. And then Hunter Yurchek went on the Zone today on 103.7 The Buzz with Justin Acree and Wes Moore. And he kind of reiterated the fact that they felt like they got disrespected. Because being a higher seed, you feel like you can get some sort of gift or some sort of help. But the fact that Arkansas was put in that position, they didn't feel like they were really considered to be a team that people cared about or that people liked or didn't even want the fans to be there or whatever it could be. So like on top of all of that, again, I don't think that Muss and them are just sitting back and complaining for the sake of complaining. I think that there's some validity in what they say. But it also makes me wonder about, just similar to what like Texas A&M said. I know what Buzz Williams said, I should say specifically, about the NCAA tournament. I had to watch that video. It's pretty wild. But he felt disrespected. It seemed like the committee screwed up a lot of things this year. Tennessee, we talked about that with the low seed, things like they got screwed. Like, there was just a lot of screwing. There's a lot of screwing from the committee this year. And I don't know how the committee works as far as being voted on or who's in it. I don't know who gets the benefit of those things too. Like, it seems like whatever it is, they've gotten it wrong, and it needs to be fixed. It needs to be handled. And it's just disappointing to see it that way. But at the end of the day, if Arkansas continues to win, it's not going to be any big deal. Like, no one's going to care about locations or anything like that. And I don't think Muss does. But, the fact that you got Nate Oates out there in Alabama and in California and out in San Diego, it's like, okay. Like, it would have been a lot better to go out there for weather-wise. But then you got some teams there in Fort Worth, and you got some teams there in Indianapolis. Like, that would have been closer to. Even Greenville, South Carolina would have been nice. But all the way up here in Buffalo, New York, it's not ideal. But you got to do what you got to do. You know what the games that are going to be in front of you. This one against Vermont is the most important one. And you just got to take care of business as a team and as a coach. You do that, you'll be fine. But I totally get why Eric Musselman and some of the guys on the team feel like they got screwed over, because the more I think about it, the more I can agree that they actually did. Anyone, listen, you play March Madness, right? You do brackets and whatnot. But sometimes, like, when you play those brackets, you don't win, and maybe you go through this long stretch of not winning. And the brackets are fun to do, but if you're not winning, it's not that fun. So try something different. Try Stat Hero. It's a single game pick'em that pits the star players against each other in an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. You can take control back from all those handicappers who are always seem to be having the advantage. And at Stat Hero, it gives you the advantage, resulting in the gamers winning 4 times more often, because Stat Hero eliminates the mystery about who or what you're going to be going up against. They simply post sets of players for you to take on with the sets of players that you choose. And Stat Hero is also easy and the fast way to get your sport fix in. The simple, sleek gameplay will have you playing in just minutes. This is what the daily fantasy part of things meant to be. So try it out. I tried it out. It's actually really fun, especially when you like to do a little bit of a variation when it comes to the NCAA tournament and mixing it up. And the best thing is that you can sign up right now for free at stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. stathero.com/lockedon. Promo code LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions apply. We're also brought to you by Built Bar, and I know a lot of you are continuing on your trek, your journey to try to continue to be healthy with your New Year's resolutions. And around this time of year too, especially with spring break going on, and you got summer vacations going to be right around the corner, you want to continue to be healthy. And luckily, there's something for you that's not only healthy but tastes great, and it is Built Bar. If you head to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, you get 15% off your next order. These aren't just protein bars, folks. They're protein bars that taste like a chocolate bar. They come in different flavors to choose from. And I use them myself. They're incredible. They're the best tasting protein bar I've ever had. I'd be hard pressed to find anybody else that tastes better. And they're just as healthy, if not healthier. So what are you waiting on? Go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off over at built.com.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so continuing on with the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, I was talking about the stuff that, we kind of got to see and all of that too. And, looking at Vermont and hearing from their press conference and everything, got a chance to get an idea of what we're looking at here. And they're the Catamounts, by the way, for those you don't know. And so I started looking at some of their stats and some of their games, some of their highlights and things like that, just to try to get an idea of what's been going on with these two teams. Well, first off, this is the first time that these two teams have ever met. Arkansas and Vermont have never met each other in college basketball. In fact, the only time that they have any sort of connection is when Eric Musselman was able to beat with his Nevada squad back in the CBI semifinal in 2016. So it's been that's really the only connection that you have. And we also know that Arkansas is 0-1 in all-time in Buffalo. Back in January 1st of 1944, they lost to a George Micken-led DePaul team, 59-30 at Buffalo Memorial Auditorium. Yeah, we all remember that one. And it was a barn burner that was going on there. So anyways, I'm putting all that together, and what I can kind of tell from Vermont and how they play is it seems like they're very similar to like a Northern Iowa team, a team that Arkansas actually faced earlier this year, where they shoot a lot of threes and they don't turn it over. And I thought about that the other day when I was reading up about them too, that was kind of the gist. But when I watched their highlights, that's exactly what their team is. They shoot a lot of threes and they don't turn the ball over. So the recipe to defeat them is a simple recipe, but executing the game plan to beat them, as we all know, is easier said than done. But that's really the only way I see Arkansas losing this game to Vermont. The only way they lose is if they give up a bunch of threes and they don't cause turnovers. They don't do those things, Arkansas is going to lose. But if they do just, honestly, one of those things, if they force a lot of turnovers or if they stop them on threes, I still like Arkansas's chances in this game. I think they'll win. And I'd be hard-pressed to think with this much time off in between games that Arkansas won't have the advantage in this one. Now, that's not disrespecting Vermont, because Vermont is a team that needs to be respected. They deserve to be respected. They deserve to be there. They've looked really good in their conference and won a lot of games, but they haven't faced a team like Arkansas before. And to add a little bit of interesting elements to it, for instance, some stats that I thought were fascinating. This comes from hogstats.com, by the way. He always comes up with the craziest stuff, so huge shout out to him. But he's been working on tip-off times lately. And he says that since 2012, Arkansas is 1-6. 1-6 in games that started before noon, regardless of location. The only win they had when they start before 11 a.m. was against Colgate last year in the NCAA tournament. And what's more relevant to this point in time for Razorback basketball, that since March of 2019, Arkansas is 13-2 in games that started at 8 p.m. Central or later. And they are 6-0 in such games this year. I hear that and I'm like, man, bet the Hogs. Put all the money down on them. Make it happen. Make it work. Get it done. Like, that's the type of stats that get me all hot and bothered over here, because I'm like, okay, now Razorbacks have to win. When you got stats and trend and history that's coming up on your side, you have to win. And so, like, all those factors coming into it, I think Arkansas is going to win this one pretty good. I'm not saying easily, but convincingly. I think they take care of business. I don't think Muss is not wired to let this team lose in the first round right now, especially what they're showing in the SEC tournament, especially in that showing against A&M. He ain't allowing it. Ain't going to happen. Not in the cards. So Arkansas is a 5-point favorite at this point. I would take the Hogs all day, twice on Sunday with that. I think that it also may get off to like a little bit of a slow start too. Like I could see that happening. But overall, I think the Hogs end up taking care of business, and I think that they end up pulling away, especially towards the end. So, but that's just again my gut feeling on all my research and all my limited studying up on a team like Vermont. I think they'll take care of business. I think they'll get it done. I don't think there'll be any reasons to be concerned. Now, after that, that's when we'll see how it goes and how the NCAA tournament goes. But overall, I like Arkansas's chances. I think they'll take care of business, and I think we'll get it done. We'll talk about some of the stuff though that's been going around Buffalo and some of the stuff we got to see the Razorbacks do here in just a second. First, got to tell you about RockAuto.com. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you'll ever need. We endure often pointless and seemingly intimidating questions about stuff that we really don't know about. So don't deal with that. Save time and money by using rockauto.com. Why choose to spend up to 30 to 50 to 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? When at Rock Auto, you have a family business that's been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer, and they have everything you could need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. So go and explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution that you need for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write the "How did you hear about us" box. Write the "How did you hear about us" box that you heard from Locked On Razorback, so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the car parts you'll ever need at rockauto.com.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I talked about some of the stuff that we got to see and got to go with the team over to Niagara Falls, and to see them kind of bonding that way was kind of funny. You could tell none of them had really seen Niagara Falls before. Some of them may not have cared actually to see as much of Niagara Falls and everything, but you could tell they were pretty loose. They were pretty happy. They were pretty good with how everything was going during the event and all that, and taking pictures with people and talking it up and all that. And so it was cool to see that. And then we get to the press conference back at the arena, and we're talking with them, and they're still like kind of loosen up a little bit. Like JD Note said a funny thing when he was asked about Muss. JD Note pretty much says he's like, yes, sometimes he's really happy and energized, other times he's really angry. In fact, most of the time he's pretty angry. So it was kind of funny to hear him talk like that about Muss. But then Muss said something that I thought was really good in his press conference, where he was asked about them being the trendy pick, the trendy upset pick for a lot of teams, or experts that were picking, their brackets and who to look out for and who's going to be upset alert and all that stuff. And he was asked, he's like, is that something that motivates you? And he kind of just smirks and he goes, "You think I'd show that to the team?" Yep. I showed him. I've showed him those clips, and I'm going to continue to show him those clips. Whatever it takes to get us motivated, I'm going to do. So you could tell that happened last year too, and he brought that up. And so it's going to be kind of the same thing this year, where he's going to stay motivated based off that stuff. He's going to definitely keep motivated and stay motivated from all that. But that was pretty interesting. Then we got to go see practice, and nothing really crazy happened in that. It was pretty much a shoot around more than anything. But got to see Hunter Yurchek that was out there too. He was he made a funny comment where he was walking by the media row, kind of looking for a seat, and he's like, "Yeah, which one of these seats are for the AD that screams at officials?" And I'm like, I love that man. Like, yes, please. You are like, I love that guy. I like, everybody's so funny, and like, it cracks me up. But yeah, him saying that, having some fun with that too. You can tell he's pumped up for the NCAA tournament. So seeing him there, you got to see, of course, all the coaching staff being there as well, getting excited for the whole thing too, and like all of that. Like, they're pumped up, they're ready to roll. But either way, I'm pumped about it. Also, this Buffalo air has been killing me. I'm pumped up about it. We got to see a lot. So it should be a lot of fun. So be sure to check it out all on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, get after me on Twitter at Nabors for all of that. Be sure to subscribe. It'll be fun live from Buffalo throughout the rest of the time. Y'all keep them straight up there. All right, we'll get it done.